All right, everybody, welcome, welcome. If we know you, welcome back. If this is the first time you're meeting some of us on this webinar, we're excited to get to know you. So real fast, my name is Chris Cahias, and ACS Technologies is really proud to be partnering with Sean Olds and his company BoodleBox that I've had the privilege of just getting to kind of be along on the journey for the last couple of years while Sean and his team built this. And today, what we're bringing you is we're bringing you what I'll just very, very honestly say is kind of the tool, in my opinion, the generative AI tool for churches to kind of get started with. So we'll unpack the whys, the hows, why you probably should be caring about generative AI, and also some really practical ways that you can be incorporating generative AI into your ministry flow. But without further ado, without saying too much more, I want to introduce Sean Olds.
Chris, thank you so much. Absolute pleasure to be here today, and I appreciate the kind words. We are very excited by the work we've done with you. As you know, we launched as a platform for work teams, and Chris, through your kind introduction, got to speak at the Church IT Network's annual conference last fall, and really found a niche inside the faith-based space and an opportunity to serve both church staffs as well as church ministries. And we're excited to figure out how we can explore that more, and what we're doing today. So with that, I'll dive in. I know we've got Trace and Sarah monitoring the chat. So one of the things, Chris and I have done a couple of these webinars before. Please don't wait to the end for Q&A. If you've got questions along the way, excuse me, I'd rather answer them up front than have people forget about them or get overwhelmed towards the end, or have to run as we get to the end and not be able to answer questions. So please insert them, and Trace is more than comfortable interrupting Chris, and I think she's pretty comfortable interrupting me. So we'll ask Trace and Sarah to jump in and interrupt with those questions so we can answer them as we go along. But very quick agenda that we've got laid out. I'm going to take a quick overview of what we've seen with generative AI just in the past 2 years. For those of you who don't know, ChatGPT launched 2 years and 2 months ago. So although it's a very pervasive technology, which lots of people talk about, and it seems like it's been around for a while, it's actually only been around 2 years. As Chris mentioned, I will talk about things today, and we will use BoodleBox, which is a tool that brings together all the AIs, but I'll go into deeper detail on that in a few minutes. And then we'll focus on 3 use cases that we've seen very powerful. One is sermon reuse, which Chris will walk through. I will talk a little bit about how to use it in stewardship. And then finally, we'll talk about the blank page syndrome and how it helps there. And we have reserved some time at the end. We won't take up the full hour with all of those to go through Q&A. And so if you've got some other ideas or questions you want to ask, we'll delve in and play with it live and see how it works. So what are we seeing today? What are we seeing already in the 2 years? Number one, in 2 years, we found that teams that don't use generative AI are at risk of being 67% less productive, 25% slower in the tasks they complete, and potentially 40% lower quality of work. Where does that study come from? In this left-hand side, first bullet, that's from HBS and MIT in what they found in polling companies that are both using generative AI and not using generative AI. The middle one to me was very interesting. It's a LinkedIn study that talked to people using generative AI. So not the executives, not the management, but people using it on a day-to-day basis. And you can see 90% positive response rate in the fact that it helps take overwhelming workloads and make them more manageable. In 90% in boosting creativity, in allowing people to focus on the most important work they need to do, not the more mundane tasks, and just helping people feel more motivated and happy at the work that they do. And then the last one was a LinkedIn study as well, but done talking to management and talking to leadership. And leaders saying that 66% of leaders would hire someone or are less likely to hire someone without any AI experience. And 71% of them saying that they would hire someone that was not as experienced for the role they were hiring, as long as they had the AI skills that they could bring into the new job. Now, one of the things I always like to address is the ethical and legal considerations, because a lot of people, if they don't get past this, they won't delve into other areas. And so the four big areas we see are around intellectual property, misinformation, privacy, and bias and discrimination. On the intellectual property side, and frankly, with all of these, one of the quotes I like to hark to is Dr. Max Tegmark. He wrote a book called Life 3.0. And in that book, he makes a comment about fire. He says, we as humans invented fire. We really messed it up. And then we invented the fire alarms, the fire extinguishers, the fire houses, and the fire trucks. And it's really going to be that way with AI, right? No one is going around the world saying we need to get rid of fire. And for those of us in the US, we've seen the damage it's been causing throughout Los Angeles most recently. But we have built a variety of ways to mitigate fire and the damage it does. AI is going to cause damage for its existence, but what can we do to put mitigating factors in to overrule those? Some of those are going to be more formal. There'll be legal structures. There will be regulations that get put in place. And in other cases, we as a society just need to stand up. When ChatGPT first launched, there were a number of intellectual property rights that were broken. And immediately society stood up and said, hey, we won't accept this. We don't care how good this technology is. If the only way it works is by violating IP, then that doesn't work for us. And immediately OpenAI and Claude and many of the others came out and said, hey, here's what we're going to do to respect intellectual property rights. Number two, on the misinformation and fake content, this was an issue before generative AI. It's just that generative AI has amplified it. And so we've got to be really careful about what comes out there. It is the old Ronald Reagan quote, trust but verify, right? If you see something doesn't quite seem that it's right, then figure out how to verify it. And today, one of the things Chris and I will show you is how you can actually use AI to verify itself and make sure that we don't have a problem with misinformation or hallucinations. Of course, privacy concerns. And one of the things I didn't share when we started Boodle 8 years ago, we were doing traditional AI, more, the traditional data science, machine learning. And what I would tell organizations all the time is firmly understand where your data is going and what, as you hand your data over, and where most organizations hand their data over is in the CRM space, right? Or in the cloud space. Firmly understand what the restrictions are and what can be done with your data when you hand it over. And be very wary of people who tell you their technology is free, because typically what they're trying to do is get a hold of your data and then use your data in some other way. So it is definitely upon you to make sure you understand how stringent your data is. And we have for 8 years now, going on 9 years, very much advocated, we don't sell your data, we don't share your data, we don't co-op your data. Your data is not our asset. It is your asset. We just need your data to use it in a way that's productive for you. And then, of course, there's bias and discrimination. And of course, bias can take on a very pejorative connotation. But in the world of data and AI, bias can actually be very innocuous in what it does. And an example I love to give is we were with our previous technology helping a school raise money. It was a university that was trying to raise money. And we developed an algorithm for them, and we can test all of our algorithms. And it came out of the testing, it would have been better flipping a coin than using the algorithm. That's how bad the algorithm was. And what we found out as we dug into the data was, while we had worked with many other universities and done very well, this was the first of what you would call a local university, right? Most universities had kids from all 50 states that came in. They studied for 4 years, and then they went back out to 50 states. 90% of the alumni for this university lived within 100 miles of the university. And that caused a problem because AI is very lazy. When it sees something repeated, it just accepts it as fact. Well, when it saw donors in a particular geography, it said, well, everybody from that geography then must be a potential donor. And it wasn't. Now, that wasn't a bias that was meant to infringe on a group or a group of people. It was just, that was the data that was fed in. And what was interesting is when we pulled that data out, the models work perfectly, and we're really good at identifying potential donors. And so we've got to be careful not to put biased data in that will cause problems, i.e. putting information in. We've also got to make sure that as we see the information coming out, that it's not skewed and biased and disenfranchising anybody. I will pause there before we delve into the others because sometimes questions come up. Any questions
Yes.
or comments on that?
Yes, actually, we do have a question on your previous slide when you were kind of talking about the statistics of hiring people who may or may not be comfortable with or um, skilled in AI. The question is, what exactly AI skills are they talking about, if you happen to know? Is it just using AI tools, or is it building and maintaining AI, like having a comp sci degree? Like, do you happen to know the context of that statistic?
For this LinkedIn study, I don't know. I have seen several other studies since then, and it tends to be two things. Even if you have a literature degree, it is and by the way, literature degrees are extremely powerful with generative AI because these are large language models. And so someone who understands language can actually be very effectual with them. But even if you have a literature degree, it's the ability to understand what AI is capable of. Maybe you can't take and build the AI that needs to be done, but it's having the understanding of the power of AI and how to direct it within your business. In the past 2 years, what has become very important to people is the ability to use generative AI. Because it is such a pervasive technology, it is so easy for people to be able to adopt and use. A lot of employers are saying, hey, if you can't use generative AI, you're not going to be able to do your job efficiently. It would be like me hiring an accountant who can only do their work by longhand. They don't know how to use Excel. They don't know how to use a calculator. And so that's been what the answer I've seen from many employers as they move forward.
Great, thanks. That's all we have in the Q&A panel right
All
now,
right,
but I will let you know if something else comes up.
Chris, I'll go over to you.
All right, so we're going to play a game kind of interspersed throughout some of these slides. We're going to play a little game we like to call AI or Not. So feel free to light up the chat with these. It's really just for fun today, but we've got a
Oh,
series
I
of.
wanted to mention, you just said something, Chris. See how good I am at interrupting. Anyway, I'm noticing that some people are chatting only to hosts and panelists, and other people have figured out how to toggle that to chat with everyone. So if you want to say something and you want the whole room to hear, be sure to switch that little blue host and panelist to where it says everyone, and then you'll be chatting with all of us.
Okay, cool. So blow up the chat. Is this AI or not? We're going to give you about 15 seconds to decide. We're seeing a lot of people who think it's AI. Well, we're going to go ahead and say the AIs have it. Yes, this one is definitely AI. And no, that is not me in 10 years, maybe 20. Hope I look that good in 20. But all right. Yeah, this one was definitely AI. But moving on.
Awesome. So we are going to talk about, and we're going to give our practical examples today using a platform called Boodle Box. It is free to sign up. The QR code will get you there. I will also, Trace, if you don't mind, can you put the link to Boodle Box in the chat? And people can sign up directly. As I said, it's free, but it will allow you to follow us. Why are we using Boodle Box? I'm sure many of you have seen presentations with ChatGPT or other platforms. What we did with BoodleBox is we brought all of these platforms into one place to allow people to not only use multiple platforms rather than being limited to one, but also allow for collaboration, both with the AIs and amongst themselves. And so one of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to take about 2 minutes here, and I'm just going to show you BoodleBox inside and why we use it. So when you log into BoodleBox, what you're going to see is a get started screen. You feel free to use these tools if you want. But if I decide to just delve into the chats, what you're going to see here, and sorry, I'm going to move something. There we go. What we've done is we brought bots all together. And so you can favorite bots and save them so they're easy access. I have an 11-year-old daughter and I use a math tutor bot almost every night. So it's at the top of my list. We also have custom bots, which we'll explain a little bit later on that you can build. But what we've done is we've brought all of the free models together, or I'm sorry, all of the paid models together. There are free use models as well, but we've got ChatGPT, you've got Claude, you've got Gemini. We recently put in Inflection. We have the Amazon models, the Mistral models. We also have the web research models, Perplexity, Cohere, and others. And then, of course, the image generation models. What we also wanted to do is at the end of last year, so only a year ago, less than 90% of the North American workforce had adopted generative AI. So if you're on this call and you're not using it and you feel like you're behind, you're not. There's a lot of people still who have not. The number one reason those 90% of people cited as to why they have not used generative AI was because they were concerned about prompting. They heard this term prompt engineering as a way to talk to the models. They weren't sure they could do it, and so they just walked away. So what we did was we created over 1,000 AI helpers. If you're part of the accounting team, there are accounting AI helpers. If you're trying to brainstorm something, there are brainstorming AI helpers, and on down the list. Now, of course, a lot of people will tell you, well, I don't have time to go through 1,000 AI helpers to find one that helps me. And so what we did is that while we typically default to Claude as our default model, you can click off of Claude and it will have no bot selected, and you can just type what you need to get done. So let's say what you need to get done is I need to build a LinkedIn profile as a quick example. And what you're going to see here is while it will give you the option for some of the bigger models, what it kicks in is our recommendation engine. And it will tell you, and I apologize, I thought I rebooted before this, so things would go a little bit faster, but I've got too much running in the background. It's going to pop up here in a minute and show you, there we go, the potential models you can use. And it will show you, hey, there's a LinkedIn profile bot, but it will also show you the tangentially related models. So there's a resume bot, there's a career coach bot, there's a job search advisor bot. And so you can go back to those, but let's go to my LinkedIn profile bot. And what our AI helpers do is they flip the script. Instead of me needing to know how to prompt it, it will introduce itself and it will proceed to ask me a series of 1 to 8 questions to elicit out of me what it needs to build the right prompt. And in this case, it says, hey, you have a brief bio, CV, or a resume. And so I can go into my knowledge base, which I've uploaded from my hard drive. I have a notional bio for a guy named Alex, and I can attach that bio. And now for any of you who are good prompters, I'm going to make you cringe. Chris will cringe at this because this is what a first-time user might type. Hi, my name is Alex, and I just uploaded my bio. Can you use that for a first draft? This, by the way, is a horrible prompt, but it doesn't matter because it's going to take what I've uploaded plus what it knows it needs to do, and boom, it puts out a first draft. Now, anybody on this call who has not used generative AI's response is not meant to be cut and paste and move forward with. Generative AI is to help you get through that first draft, right? I have watched people build LinkedIn profiles. I've never seen anyone do it in less than 30 minutes. Most people would take an hour or two. And now in just 2 minutes, you've got a LinkedIn, or in 30 seconds, you've got a LinkedIn profile. Some people say, well, I've got to get better at prompting at some point. One of the things that we've introduced is a prompt bot. And that prompt bot, when you call on it, I just say, how could I have improved the above prompt? And not only will it give you a better prompt, which ChatGPT or Claude or others will do directly, more importantly, what it does is it tells you why it's a better prompt. And so you learn, hey, I need to be more specific. I need a little bit more structure. And so as you go through this, you can learn prompting on the fly, but you don't have to because the AI helpers are there. Now, if I go back to my LinkedIn profile bot, and, we use the LinkedIn profile bot to create the first profile. If some of you were, say, ChatGPT users on here and tell me that was cute, Sean, but I bet ChatGPT could do a better job. Well, we can just bring ChatGPT into the conversation. The same way I might call Chris into a meeting to help me with something. And I can say, can you improve the above linked in profile. And now ChatGPT is collaborating with our AI helper, and boom, it's going to build an improved LinkedIn profile. So on any given day, I will put something I've written and upload it. I tend to default to Claude. I will have Claude go through and proofread it for me. I will tell it, of the 10 edits you gave me, I like these 5, rewrite it. And then after it rewrites it, I will bring ChatGPT into the conversation. And because ChatGPT can see what Claude has already told me, it's not going to regurgitate any of that. And so now I get I get even more improved recommendations. And then I'll have it rewrite it again. And if it's really important, I'll have Gemini do a proofreading of it. And I don't know how any of your organizations are. We're a pretty nimble, good startup of just less than 15 people. To get 3 of my senior people to proofread something, just a 1-pager in a day, would take a whole day. Now I can get 3 AIs to proofread it through me in about 5 minutes. Now, the other big step, and the last thing I'll show you here before we dive into the more practical examples, I mentioned that one of the big things we want to do is collaborate. I've showed you how you can get the AIs to collaborate and work with each other. The other thing I can do, though, is let's say I wanted Chris to give me some advice on this. Let's say he was my career coach. If I was in ChatGPT, what I would have to do is send him the last thing ChatGPT did for me. And if I had done 20 prompts, he wouldn't be privy to any of those, right? So he'd have a bunch of questions about whether I had done certain things. Now what I can do is, instead of sending Chris a Zoom link and having him zoom in, I can send Chris a Boodle link. And this is what we're going to do in our practical examples today with you all, is send you the link for the chat and bring you into the chat. And now Chris can join me in this chat, and he and I can talk to each other, but we can both also talk to the models themselves. So that's a quick run around of Boodle and why we're going to use BoodleBox for our explanations today. Very quickly, what I'll run through is, as you're using AI, one of the most important things you can do is use the right use case. Extremely important to use the right use case. There are things that generative AI is amazing at. There are also things it's really bad at. And so the first thing you've got to do is make sure you're using it for the right use case. By no means is generative AI a cure-all for everything. If you're trying to make a computation out to the 10th decimal point, generative AI is not your tool. If you're trying to get a group of ideas for an upcoming event and you need to brainstorm, generative AI is a great tool to use. Once you pick the right use case, it's then picking the right model or bot. As I showed you, you can use the recommendation engine if you're not sure. But a lot of times, I mentioned earlier, I tend to skew towards Claude. I just like Claude better. I know marketers who swear by ChatGPT. I know other marketers who will never use ChatGPT. They only use Claude. So it really becomes a personal choice, and you just got to experience it. You'll start to learn over time how to orchestrate your prompts. You'll want to start, the more you use it, drawing on existing knowledge. If you want to ask it to help write you something, like say a LinkedIn post, it'll do a great job, but it's not going to sound exactly like you. If you can upload your previous 10 LinkedIn posts, it will learn how you write, and it will help you write more like you. And then, of course, the ability to learn and collaborate with both the human and the AI team. And then, as I said before, what generative AI puts out is trust but verify. You need to look at it, evaluate it, and then use it responsibly.
All right, I've got a couple questions for you.
Awesome.
So I'm just going to throw like a few questions at you at a time, because they're all kind of sort of one question-ish. So how long is the memory between sessions? Are you using full vector? Can you force forget or use multiple personalities, like saying, I am Sean, I am not Sean?
So the memory is persistent per chat. If you go to a new chat, one chat does not pull what another chat had. But because we are using a vector database, that was one of the questions, and using RAG, we actually take your conversations and put them into our vector database. The same place we store all of your information. If you upload data, if you upload donors, anything that's proprietary, it goes into our vector database and is protected by our terms of service. So in a conversation, it stays persistent. So we know, we have consulting clients who will use us with their clients because 8 months in, they have this continuous chat going and they can pull from meetings they did in month 2. So it stays consistent. And I'm sorry, what was the last thing, Trace? There were 3. Oh, can you erase it? And the way to erase it is by starting a new chat. Once you go into a new chat, you start with a whole new conversation, and it has no privilege to the other conversations that you've done. Excuse me.
Great, thank you. Does BoodleBox have current plans to include AI agents in the future?
Agentic workflows are a very big discussion. One of the things I alluded to is we have introduced the custom bots, which are not agents yet, but they are custom bots to focus on what you want to focus on. And as agentic workflow becomes more mature, we'll absolutely introduce it into the platform.
Great, thanks. We do have another question, but we're going to save that one for a little.
Okay. So very quickly, these are the top 12 ways that we see most people use generative AI. Based on now 18 months of watching both people and organizations, these are the main categories. Chris and I are not going to go through these today, but I put the QR code here. Boodle runs a free weekly seminar on how to do these. And so if you're interested and these are things that would help you, we will absolutely happy to have you join the webinars. You don't have to be a BoodleBox customer to join the webinar. The webinar to go through these 12 typically takes about 30 minutes and then is followed by a 15 to 20-minute Q&A. All right, Chris.
All right. So in our continuing journey of AI or not, grab those chats. Is this one AI or is this one real? Give you guys a second here. This is going to be fun. They think everything's AI. You are correct. Yes. Once again, this one is AI. Thank you, Kevin Miller, for grabbing the bait and running with it, and John. But nope. Once again, this one was AI, chosen specifically because a photographer friend of mine looked at it and went, I have shot that photo before. Very similar to it. This one's hard to tell, but nope. This one, once again, is AI. And we'll just continue telling you guys that it's getting harder and harder to differentiate the real from the AI. All right.
Absolutely. All right.
All
Chris,
right. So, Sean, did you send out that? Are you going to send out that link?
I am going to send the link now in the chat. If you all have signed up, or if you want to click on this link and it will take you to a sign up, you can do so. And I'm going to follow Trace's instructions and make sure I go to everyone. And if you click on that, it'll take you into this chat with Chris and you can watch Chris live. The advantage of it is after he gets done, you can refer back to this at any point in time. You don't need Chris to necessarily come back into this.
Awesome. So let's dive in. We're going to do some practical stuff with maybe things that you guys in ministries would do, let's say maybe Sunday afternoon or Monday morning. So to kind of show everybody that this does work, I'm just kind of knocking a little hi Sean there, which is a fun little feature of Boodle that I can actually just chat back and forth by using this slash character. But what we're going to do right now, we're going to take basically a pastor's sermon notes, and we're going to do some fun things with them. So we're going to try to immediately collaborate with the AI about some things that would be very, very common to you guys. So unlike Sean, I am more of a Chat GPT guy. So I'm going to go ahead and change this. Right now, I enjoy ChatGPT 01 Mini. And I'm going to show you a different way of doing some of this. So I'm going to actually paste the entire 4 or 5 pages of sermon notes from my pastor from a couple weeks ago into the chat. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a prompt. So I'm going to ask it to, we're going to write, consider this sermon. And I'm sorry, you won't see it until I hit enter because Sean is still sharing the screen, so you can't see me typing. But consider this sermon and suggest 5 social media posts that can be used during the next week that align to the main points. Okay. And again, I'm not doing any kind of crazy prompting here. It's just being very specific about what it is that I'm looking for. So you've got 6 pages copied directly from a Word doc. I did not upload them as knowledge. Instead, I just plugged them in as I just plugged it in directly into the context window. So Sean, if you want to scroll up, they can actually see the 5 social posts oh, too far. So the blue part there. So if you come down, we've got this. So obviously it took and distilled 6 pages of sermon notes, not even the transcription. It's also fun to do this by taking like the sound recording after a sermon, running it through something like Whisper and getting every word your pastor said and then doing the same thing. So here we've got something from 2 Timothy chapter 3. It has accurately lifted the main points of the sermon, and it's now suggested 5 different social media posts. And great thing about this one, this is kind of new in O1 Mini. It's even creating suggested images. So the next thing we're going to do is, again, same thread. I'm going to take social media post 5. We're going to switch. We're going to actually request 2 images at the same time. So I'm just going to literally copy and paste into Flux and then also into Ideogram. And we're going to ask those 2 image engines to get us to create some social media images for us. And Flux had a little momentary hiccup, so we'll ask it to do it again. Actually, I hate it when we do live demos, Sean.
It's because you're doing a live demo.
This worked just a little while ago. All right. Any ideas?
No, try. Oh, you know what? I'll send it out. Let's just real quick on your own, Chris, start a new chat
Yep.
and see if it works in the new chat.
It worked. Yeah, it worked fine earlier.
So sometimes one of the problems you run into with this technologies is APIs can get wonky, and sometimes a particular chat will get caught. Going to the persistent conversation, what happens if you have to start a new chat, is you can download your existing chat and upload it as knowledge and start over. So while Chris runs this test, my daughter loves using BoodleBox Claude to do bedtime story. And we have this bedtime stories running for 6 months, and we had this happen. And so she didn't want to give up on the bedtime story and wanted it, to continue. And so we saved the entire chat into knowledge and then started a new chat, picked up with it. Chris, is it?
It's not working in another one, but Sean, I just dropped if you want to click the link I just dropped in the chat, I can at least show them when we're not doing a live demo, it does actually do wonderful things here. So, so if you scroll down, you'll see 2 images. So again, the idea being we could quickly come up with some graphics that go along with these. So here you can see both Flux Pro and Ideogram created remarkably similar images for, in this case, I did it for the first point where it recommended a serene path or a close-up of hands in prayer. I think it's kind of comical that both engines chose the serene path first, probably because it was first in the window there. Moving on from there, and Sean, I think this will work if you want to go back to your other window. The image ones have done, I don't know, like you said, it may be something transient today. They were doing some weird things earlier today too. So from there, so obviously we've got a way we can summarize the sermon. We can come up with some social media ideas. Sean showed you guys earlier, we can switch different AI engines on the fly. But in this case, I want to kind of keep going down the path that we're going. So we've gone from the sermon notes to some social media posts. But what if we have several churches now that are doing some things where they're trying to really empower parents. So again, I'm going to stick with ChatGPT o1 Mini. I know Sean's the Claude guy. I'm the ChatGPT guy. And so let's ask it another question. We're going to talk to it and say, okay, um, create 3 to 5 questions for families that parents can use to start conversations with their younger children driving home. Okay. So that should catch up with us in a second. And this is going to now do one of the other things that's really awesome with generative AI. It's going to contextually shift it for the audience, for the age that we're talking about. So assuming we have success here, there we go. Great. So now we've got some questions here that are a little bit more nuanced and simplified for having these conversations with kids. And one of the things I really have enjoyed about O1 and specifically O1 Mini, but even 4.0 Mini is its speed, but also the fact that it's giving us lots and lots of things for us to think about. So this is really great. Like this is a really cool way to pivot from your sermon and get some reuse out of it. You could do the same thing if you wanted to create Bible study questions, but instead of using this family context, we quickly ask it, give me 7 open-ended questions that can be used in small group Bible studies to get, we'll just say get deeper, okay? So same idea, it's going to use the context of that whole sermon, and we're going to get these questions that are ready to go. The last thing I was going to show you guys, but I think in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and keep moving, was we can do the same thing with making that pivot to doing Sunday school lessons. But I'll kind of come back around to that when we get into blank page. So Sean, I'm going to let you keep going because we're not going to be able to create images.
Okay. And then what I'm going to do, actually, I looked up an old one. I'll use an old example of stewardship. But before we go to that.
All right, AI or not. You guys a second here. I love everybody who's playing. This one is real. This is a for real picture. So this one got a bunch of people several times. So that is a real little girl. All right, Sean, keep it going.
One of the telltale signs on real is AI actually, and this will get better, doesn't do buttons well. And so the fact that there's a button and a corresponding hole here kind of gives it away that it's real. But there are little things you can pick up on from there. All right. Don't use this QR code, please, because of the image generation, and I need it. I'm going to jump to a different thing. So I'll bring this in here. Chris, can you see CITN stewardship?
Yep, we're good.
All right. We're going to use the one we did at CITM, but I wanted to give an example. We have actually had 2 organizations, not churches, but 2 nonprofits do this separately. Within 30 days, 2 separate development directors reached out to me to tell me they had done this. And it was not Girls Who Code who did it. So I'm just using them as an example. But what I did here is both organizations said, hey, I feel like every time I reach out to my donors, I'm either asking for money, I'm thanking them for money, or I'm sending out our annual report. I'd really just love to send a thank you note that doesn't mention money and just shows appreciation for what we're doing. I just don't have time to write all of those. And so what they did was they used Perplexity. For those of you not heard Perplexity, Perplexity is actually trained on the web rather than like ChatGPT or Claude, which are trained on vast amounts of data. They're trained on the web. And so to give the conversation some context, we went to Perplexity and said, hey, what do you know about Girls Who Code? And so it gave me a summary there. I then uploaded the Girls Who Code annual report, and I uploaded a notional donor list. And I created this list, and I'll show you what it looks like. It's a first name, last name, an email address, a street address, and then it had 2 tidbits of information about the person. So you can see here, Olivia Smith enjoys bird watching and practices aero yoga. And we've got her donation amount in here. And so when I go back to this, the next thing we did was we went to Claude and we just explained, hey, I'm doing fundraising for Girls Who Code in addition to the information provided by Perplexity of attached to our annual report. And I'd like to start sending stewardship emails to our donors. I have uploaded our top 100 donors in the notional donor file, so you let it know where to look. I do not want these emails to ask for money. I would like to personalize them in our donor file. I have provided information about each of our donors, and please generate unique emails. So you can see here, Olivia Smith. Dear Olivia Smith, I hope this email finds you well and perhaps enjoying peaceful moments of bird watching. And it goes in and it pulls something out of the annual report. Comes down to Leanne Johnson, who's a big record fanatic, and it makes a reference to vinyl records. And it pulls something different out of the annual report. And if you read through these in detail, all 5 emails are completely different. Then what I said was, I went to ChatGPT, I had already used Claude, and I said, hey, these are a great start, but I'd like to make them more grateful. And so ChatGPT comes in and makes them more grateful for us. Now, we know that imagery in an email could cause a person to take a look at something versus just pure text. And so the next thing I said is, hey, please provide me an image that would resonate with Olivia. And now what you've got is a woman with Girls Who Code on her back, looking at birds and a laptop right there in the background. One of the better, honestly, images usually don't come out this good the first time. One of the better images we've had before, but you can imagine if you cut and paste the text above and above it, put this image and sent it to Olivia, she'd probably end up opening the email and reading. You can also see they don't come out so good other times. Probably not one you would end up sending out. And then you can say, hey, how can I, and I showed you the prompt bot before, but that was it. So these directors of development have gone through and they do 5 emails a day. Their follow-up prompt to this is generate the next 5 donors' emails. They spend about 15, 20 minutes every morning just editing those emails and sending them out. In their first month, they had a 20% unsolicited donation rate. Never asked for a dime, didn't even put a link in the email where they could donate. And just because of that email, people had reached out because they felt it was that personalized. This is the power. And I asked each one of them, how long would it take you to write these 5 emails separately? And each of them said between coming in the morning, going to our CRM, pulling them out, pulling the information out, writing an email, like contemplating it and writing it, and then going into Shutterstock to go pull a photo. They said if they came in at like 8:30 in the morning, they'd be lucky if they had a late lunch, that it would take them that long. Now it's taking them 15, 20 minutes every morning to send 5 emails out a day. All right. Think we've got another one.
All right. Yes, our AI or not series. There's only 2 to go. Get those fingers flying. Is this one AI?
And while they're doing that, Marcus made a comment. I rarely get images to include text that is accurate. When it's
Ideogram.
working, Marcus, try
Ideogram
which
with
one?
quotes, right? Ideogram with quotes.
You can do ideogram. There's a better one.
Are you thinking of Recraft?
Oh no, I guess it is a diagram. Yep. Use a diagram and see how it works.
But put your text inside of quotes. It's
Yeah.
very finicky about that. All
Yep.
right, so this one is real. So for all of you running down the AI route, nope, this one was in fact real.
All right.
Actually, no, sorry. This one is AI. I lied. I forgot. As soon as I looked at it harder, I got it wrong. This one is AI. You are correct. So all of you who thought AI, yes, because she's kind of wearing some going out on the town shoes, not some hiking shoes. Chris is hallucinating. Yes. All right. All right, let's jump into some blank page stuff. This is one of my favorite things to do with AI. So we're gonna dive in real quick. If Trace or Sean wants to share the link, we'll get in, but I'm gonna get ahead of you guys and go ahead and press enter so that when you get in here, Sean, you can just start scrolling.
Yep, I'll share it right now.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna actually you know, we're going to have this moment where we pretend that we're hanging out. We've got a, you know, we either need to begin creating maybe a children's ministry curriculum series. I know that no pastor on earth would ever think of using generative AI to help him with a blank page moment here. But we're going to just say for the purposes of arguing, we're sitting in front of our desk. We're all prayed up. We've read the book, but we're still having a hard time getting started with whatever it is that we're trying to put together. Small group curriculum. Maybe it's a sermon. Who knows? So if you'll scroll up a little bit, Sean, all I've done here is I asked the AI, and I'm using Claude, we'll switch in a minute for fun, to just help me to create an outline for the book of James, chapter 1. So again, one of the things AI is great at, taking a giant volume of text and going ahead and creating a summary of it. So we've got some different themes that it's pulled out. We've got this introduction and greetings. What we're going to do though is let's zero in on you know, I guess number 2, trials and temptations, and to show off the power of really what makes BoodleBox special. I started in Claude, but I'm going to go ahead and switch. I'm going to switch back to my favorite because this happens to me regularly. I'm a GPT guy, so I'm gonna say, you know, help me create some practical application points for number 2, trials and temptations. And what's awesome about this is under the hood, I know there was questions about the vector storage and everything. This is sending all the context that is needed from the thread we started with Claude all the way to GPT, and it's going to come back to me. So now we have gotten some things. So cultivating a positive mindset, developing perseverance. Well, we know developing perseverance is awesome because that is right out of the text for James chapter 1 and chapter 2, seeking spiritual maturity. So in that moment when you're sitting there with a blank, you know, blank sheet of paper in front of you and you're trying to figure out how to start something, can you scroll up, Sean? I'm sorry, I'm staring at something and it's not what's on the screen. It gives us this opportunity to use the tool either with the Bible or with some other piece of text that you've uploaded, i.e. we did that with the last example using you know, the pastor's sermon notes to immediately pivot and get some things. Again, if we wanted to take this and bring it down to another level, you know, we could now go ahead and say, you know, create a simple children's Bible study for this and include a relevant craft. I have no idea, guys. I have not tested this one where we are trying something live and just having fun with it. So again, all that great vector storage and the ability for this chat to kind of go where we go is great. So we've got a, let's see, we've got a children's Bible study, Overcoming Trials with Joy, Welcome Opening Prayer, Bible Story, Facing Challenges with a Happy Heart. This might be a little, you know, this might be a little soft for me, but it's a great start for you to edit. And as Sean talked about before, it's not about one shot this doing the job for you. In this moment, we've been able to start and be able to come up with some ideas that get us down the road. I want to show you something that's very practical, very near and dear to my heart. We'll just do it in the same thread as this. But one of my, at my home church, we have recently done a fun little thing, bringing people and AI together where, again, when you're staring at that blank sheet of paper, our prayer ministry, we have given them a tool now that helps them if they're praying for somebody. So we do kind of a digital prayer ministry. People put prayer requests in, we send them encouragements, but you know, we're just going to say, hey, here's a prayer. I'm going to drop it in here in a second. And what I'm going to do is, you know, we're just going to say, suggest 3 verses that would be encouraging to include in a message to them. We don't use AI to write the message. People pray for people. But if you're anything like me, I've got about 5 to 10 verses memorized, and they pretty much are my go-tos every time I'm going to pray for somebody or try to encourage them. So what we've done is we actually put together a tool that is letting our people be able to expand their own vocabulary of memorized prayer for context, but it also encourages the body. So again, one more use of things that they're things we know, but man, being able to have that at your fingertips has incredible power. All right.
I do have a couple of questions if you don't mind me jumping in real quick. One question is specifically talking about scripture references. Is it a good practice to specify in these chats which Bible translation you're working with? Does it have access to all translations? Is that even a concern?
So I know for a fact that ChatGPT has access to the different ones. So I could actually ask it to, show me Philippians 4, 6, and 7 in the NIV version of the Bible. I don't know how far and wide that goes, but it definitely has access to some of the more popular versions of the Bible. I'm going to go ahead and raise my hand and say I haven't fully tested that. Oh, that's awesome. Um, that's interesting that it said that today. So just literally the other day, I got it to give me 4 different verses and 4 different versions. So I'm going to say test that. Your mileage may vary depending on exactly which engine you're using. But once again, the issue isn't necessarily so again, we're not saying it is a one-shot fix for all situations, but what it is doing is it's helping you find maybe some of the verses that you're not as familiar with.
Gotcha. All right. We do have a couple more questions. Chris, do you still want us to wait for the end?
No,
Yeah, because we're almost there. So let's,
all right.
Great.
unless you want to, Sean.
Go, just very quickly, I think the last slide we actually had. Oh, go ahead.
Quick, everybody fly. I'll just break everyone. This one was actually real. This was the real photo that the other one was based on.
And then finally, a lot of people ask, like, what is the real impact that you see with generative AI? And in particular with BoodleBox, this was a 68-person nonprofit. They did a 16-person pilot team with us. They brought people from their finance team, their accounting team, their fundraising team, obviously, and then one other team, events team, I think. 8 of these people had never logged into any generative AI, ChatGPT or anything. By the end of the first month, 100% of them were using it weekly. Now, because they were new, they only spent 27 hours on the platform, but they got out of it, they documented 372 hours of productive work that they produce. And so one way to look at that is for a $300 investment, this team got 2 extra FTEs for the month, or for a $300 investment, they got $20,000 in productive work. And so, and a lot of this, if you talk to them, it's that more mundane work, not the work you hired people to do. And by taking that mundane work off of their plate, they were allowed to do more of the strategic work that they were actually hired for. Before we go to the next up, Trace, I didn't get it in there because of the image issues. But Q&A questions, anything that people want to post. I did see Katie mention how empathetic she thought ChatGPT was. You should try using inside the BoodleBox platform. Inflections Pi was based on human psychology, and it's supposed to be much more empathetic in what it does. And so you may want to test that out as well.
Yeah, we actually, this is a perfect slide for us to be looking at because it does talk about cost savings. Marcos was asking, well, he must have been digging around because he's like, the premium price of Boodle seems less than the cost of ChatGPT. So he's like, does that mean that all bots listed are included for no extra cost?
Yep.
Can you address that one, Sean?
We get many people who come to us who are paying $20 a month for ChatGPT, another 20 for Perplexity, and another 20 for, say, Claude. And they'll pay $20 to us and get access to all of them. And it's unlimited use for the month.
But wait, it gets better than that.
It does. So the other
It does.
thing is, if you want to, well, so a couple of things that get better. One is, as a nonprofit, you actually get a 10% discount. So it's $18 a month. If you sign up for a annual license, you get an additional 10% discount. So you get down to just over $16 a month you'd be paying if you purchased an annual license as a nonprofit. We are working a lot with universities, and universities need to get the cost down because one, they want to be able to provide to everybody. But two, they also know that not all of their students are going to use it on a regular basis. And so one of the things we introduced last month is what we call usage-based pricing. So if a church wanted to be able, as Chris showed, share chats about questions that you could ask your kids, they could have their membership sign up and they would pay nothing for it if all they're doing is joining the chats and reading the chats and using them. But then they would only pay if people actually use it during the course of the month. So if the staff uses it and say, 20 people in the ministry are really active in the chats, you end up paying as a nonprofit, you end up paying, what does that come down to? $14 a month for the people who use it. And then those members who aren't using it except to pull from it and aren't engaged in chats on a regular basis, you pay nothing for. And that's our usage-based pricing.
Thank you, Sean. This is a question, Chris, maybe you might want to take.
Okay.
For those in the audience, just so you are aware, ACST has a church management system called Ministry Platform, in which you can create your own views. So Amber is asking if we have bots to assist with view creation within Ministry Platform, generating the syntax needed.
Not yet.
When you use words like that, people pay attention. So in fact, Chuck Robinson was like, Chris said we put together a tool. So he's like wondering if you've deployed something to your church.
That's a topic for another day. Today it's all about
Stay tuned, Chuck. Stay tuned.
And I know
All
we're
right,
running
I
out
guess
of time,
this one's me, yeah.
Did we have the QR code also for the for everybody, Sean?
Yeah, that's on the next, that's coming on the
I'm
next
sorry.
slide.
Sorry, I don't want to miss that part.
No, we won't. Thank you guys. Thank you, Sean and Chris. It's been awesome. We do have a few more webinars coming that we thought you guys might be interested in. One that is very near and dear to my heart. We are so excited to show you how you can bring Bible lessons to life with a new web app that we have developed called Color Creation. Now, Color Creation uses AI to generate coloring pages for kids. And you can either create your own, or you can access the entire library of coloring pages that grows every single day. Because every coloring page created by any user gets added to that library that you will have access to. And of course, when kids color, they're coloring pages that depict a Bible story or a theme. It helps to reinforce those biblical lessons. So we feel like this is a really valuable tool for children's ministries, missionaries, educators, even parents who have kids that love to color, or if you know people with kids. And it's free. So in this webinar, we're going to show you all about it. We're going to demo how to use it, and we'll get you using color creation in no time. So we hope that you will join us Tuesday, February 18th at 11 a.m. Eastern, and you can scan that QR code to get registered. And then in March, we'll continue this AI and Ministry series with another webinar, and we'll be sure to email you with what that webinar will focus on specifically, as well as the dates and the links to register as we get closer. But just wanted you to know this one's not a one and done. We have a whole series of AI and Ministry webinars that we want to provide for you. And I also just wanted to give out a shout out to BoodleBox for developing the graphic for the slide. Now I realize that's a lot of humans and no animals on Noah's Ark. there, but for AI, this was a pretty darn good image. So just one more plug for how BoodleBox can support your day-to-day work or ministry and get you saving time for the things that really matter. So thank you guys for giving us part of your day today. We hope this has been valuable. And the next slide, we're going to show you how to
Yes.
get.
For those of you, Chris, you want to go?
Go for it.
So for those of you who would like to try BoodleBox, ACS is willing to sponsor your first month on the platform. And so if you do hit the paywall, it is free to sign up. But if you go over 5 prompts, you can put in ACST free, and you will get a free full month on the platform. So enjoy that. And if you want to get in touch with Chris or I, the QR codes there are to our LinkedIn profiles. I try to publish a couple of times a week on what we're seeing in AI, and happy to connect with you. And if I can ever be helpful in any way, please feel free to reach out. And ACS, thank you so much for sponsoring this and putting this together today.
Thank you. Thanks for building a tool that is really changing churches. And, I don't normally plug stuff like this, but I will tell you guys, my church, my pastors are already on BoodleBox and loving it. So, it feels like the right fit. It's, hey, let's give you all the tools that you could want to play with at a price that is church aligned. So for less than the price of one GPT, you're getting access to something way more powerful. So be on the lookout. Spoiler, I think most of our AI and ministry talks this year, not just March, are going to center around BoodleBox, and we are going to have Sean back for some more advanced topics and times as well. So thank you guys for coming, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.
Thanks, you guys.